welcome to All the Way Down, a YouTube channel all about the Scottish rock band Biffy Clyro.
All the way down, all the way down.
So the eagle-eyed amongst you will notice that this is a slightly different angle to what you're used to. It's because I can't find my tripod. But don't worry, I'm not going to keep you long with this intro. What I thought I'd do is a bit of an alternative A to Z of the band Biffy Clyro. Little things like little quirks, fun facts that you've not heard before. I've put them all together in an A to Z. It's basically because little things that I've heard of, little fun facts and stories, not really big enough for an entire video. So I thought I'd put everything together, 26 of them in total, one for each letter of the alphabet. Enjoy.
Here is an A to Z of fun facts and odd quirks in the world of Biffy Clyro. A. Applause. What links the Biffy songs Wave Upon Wave Upon Wave and Errors in the History of God? Slightly overlooked album tracks? Maybe, but there's something else. They both feature the sound effect of applause. The latter song is prompted by Simon in his lyrics, "Just something to applaud." But the former is a little more surprising. The Infinityland album is full of little quirks like this: extended intros, brass sections, a cappella singing, and mid-song clapping. B. Barrowlands. The first recorded gig for the band at Glasgow's legendary Barrowlands Ballroom was in 2002, when they supported Weezer, just days after releasing their debut album Black and Sky. This will be the first chapter in the story of Biffy and the Barrowlands. It would turn into a regular stop-off during UK tours, and they ended 2014 by playing 3 consecutive nights there, with fan-chosen setlists featuring songs from the 6 albums they'd released to date. Oh, and let's not forget the live stream they broadcasted in 2020, in which viewers got to see most of the building, including the front entrance. C. Colours. It's safe to say the Biffy boys aren't afraid of a bit of colour. You only have to look at the A Hunger in Your Haunt video to see that. The songs Black Chandelier, The Pink Limit, That Golden Rule, Pink, Navy Blue, Yellow, Colour Wheel, Waiting for Green, as well as the album Black and Sky, all feature colours to some extent. Also, during the build-up of A Celebration of Endings album, the band displayed colours on their social media platforms as a vague teaser for the album artwork: Pantone 2197C and 486C. D. Dress code. It may be a shock to you to hear that Biffy haven't always played live with their tops off. In fact, the first 4 or 5 times I saw them, they all had the shirts on. This trend has become a bit of a calling card, but it's not much of a fashion trend, more of a necessity. Around the time of the Puzzle album, the band were touring endlessly around the country, Europe and America. With regular shows and long travelling schedules, this must have put a huge strain on their laundry bills. The band have said in interviews that playing topless saves a lot of shirts and washing. Very economical. E. Extra tracks. Extra tracks on albums, or hidden tracks, are little Easter eggs for fans to enjoy, but it seemed to be something that died out in the 90s, with the likes of Ash, Nirvana and Blur secreting songs in albums without a number. Biffy joined this bandwagon in the early noughties, with the haunting Tradition feed bolted on the end of Infinityland in 2004. But it was a year earlier where the true quality lies. After the dust settles from the noise of Now the Action is on Fire, a few minutes pass to reveal a song of real delicacy. Ewin's True Mental You is the extra hidden track on 2003's The Vertigo of Bliss. And quite frankly, despite how short it is, the song is worthy of being an official track on the album, with Simon and Ben harmonising wonderfully over the top of a noodly guitar. F. Film. Biffy's 2022 Amazon Prime Video documentary wasn't their first dip into the deep waters of film. 4 years earlier, they started collaboration with filmmaker Jamie Adams. From what I've read about the film and its music, this was collaboration in its deepest sense, with the band creating music based off the film's treatment and snippets of scenes they were sent. Then, in turn, Jamie would rewrite the film based on the music he was given. I remember being quite charmed by the film, and really enjoyed the stamp Simon and the rest of the band put on it. It's a film about grief and artistic expression, themes that Simon has been no stranger to in the past. As for the album, only a few songs stick out for me really, but the ones that do are real favourites of mine, songs like All Singing All Dancing and Sunrise. This was an important period for Simon in particular, I think. He said in interviews that this was his chance to throw everything at the wall, without worrying about radio plays, instrumentation, or record company opinion. G. Gagarth. Canadian producer Garth Richardson, the nickname Gagarth given to him due to his mild stutter, worked with the band from 2007 to 2013. His producing credits in the 90s are pretty impressive, from Rage Against the Machine to Skunk Anansie. When it came to 2007, Biffy had just signed to Warner's and were on the rise from the UK underground rock scene they'd done so well to make a name in. This was Biffy's chance to break out, and Garth was a huge part of this. They recorded in Vancouver and California, a lifetime away from the Monmouth farm in Wales where Infinity Land was created. These 3 albums propelled Biffy into the mainstream, achieving album chart positions of 2, 3 and 1 in the UK. H. House Gig. In 2004, a lucky competition winner got the chance to host Biffy Clyro in their own home. Launched by Kerrang! Magazine, the band pitched up to a flat in Glasgow to showcase songs from their brand new album, Infinity Land. I remember following this story on the online forums on the night in question, and being saddened to hear that it had been shut down by the police soon after neighbour complaints. There's a clip on YouTube of them belting out Jaggy Snake, but it only lasts 51 seconds. Based on the noise level, I don't think the gig lasted much longer than that. I. Ink. We're all aware that the boys are into their tattoos. Ben has a Star Wars one, James has roses, and Sai has, well, that might be another video entirely. But all 3 members have tattoos of the same thing, the band itself. The old Biffy B logo, puzzle pieces, Vertigo of Bliss ladies, Infinity Land hearts, and probably more impressively, all 3 band members have the same line design on different parts of their body, one seemingly large tattoo that sprawls over all of them. It was designed by artist Dr. Lines and was done in 2016. J. Johnston Twins. The Johnston Twins make up 2/3 of Biffy Clyro, but this wasn't always the case. Formerly called Screwfish, guitarist Simon and drummer Ben met in high school as 15-year-olds in Ayrshire. James was added soon after, and 2 years later they relocated to Glasgow to study, whilst continuing as Biffy Clyro. K. Kate Bush. I've done a video about all the songs that Biffy have covered in the past, and there are a lot of them, but probably the best one took me by surprise. Although not strictly a Biffy cover, as it just features Simon, it was a wonderful and ethereal cover of Running Up That Hill by Kate Bush. It was performed at the 9th annual Roaming Roots Review for Celtic Connections, and filmed during lockdown in January 2021. Hosted by Roddy Hart and the Lonesome Fire, trust me, you will love it, listen to it. L. Lockdown. It's safe to say the band didn't exactly go into hibernation when lockdown hit in 2020. Yes, their album release and tour was put back, but the band got to work elsewhere. Ben and James put out instrument tutorials, Si did weekly Facebook sets from his back room, as well as a collaboration with his guitar tech on a guitar pedal. Plus, the Barrowlands Ballroom livestream was spawned. Do check out my video on that livestream. I put the link in the description below. Always wanted to say that. As for Simon's Facebook sets, it really created a community of fans when actual gigs weren't possible, and Simon even encouraged viewers to dress up with him for the evening. M. Mon the Biff. E. In the glory days of the early 2000s, a Biffy gig wouldn't be the same without a Mon the Biffy chant. This, presumably first uttered in Scotland, is short for Come On Biffy, but has shortened even more in recent years to Mon the Biff, which I don't mind. Both chants remind me of standing impatiently in small, sweaty rooms as technicians fiddle with guitars and cables, waiting for the lights to dim and for the boys to take the stage. It's something that can never be replaced, and something that will always be thrilling, no matter how big the venue gets. N. Name. Simon said in an interview with YouTube channel Riot Act, "We're called Biffy Clyro. We've not exactly set our stall to be easy to swallow." In the Amazon Prime Video documentary Cultural Sons of Scotland, we learn that they actually turned down an early record deal because they wouldn't change the band name. What the documentary also gives us is the most cemented reasoning for why the name exists. As Ben tells us, it stands for Big Imaginations for Feeling Young, 'cause life yearns real optimism. They've sold t-shirts donning the phrase in the past, possibly cementing the idea even further. But historical explanations from the boys are worth bringing up here anyway. A Cliff Richard pen called Cliffy Biro, a Finnish footballer who played for Ayr United, a marriage of two words, a nickname of a fictional spy, and a Welsh village. the name of a Scotsman who built his own rocket and was the first man in space. O. Number 1 albums. Of all 10 albums that have been released so far, 3 have clinched the number 1 spot in the UK charts. Opposites in 2009, Ellipsis in 2016, and A Celebration of Endings in 2020. Puzzle just missed out on the number 1 spot, losing out to Rihanna, and in the UK, Opposites went platinum, Ellipsis went gold, and A Celebration of Endings went silver. P. Pedal. In November 2020, Psy announced that he created a guitar pedal with his guitar technician, Richard Churd Pratt, and his company, Gone Fishing Effects. The Boom Blast Dirt Box looked like a one-stop shop for any Biffy fan with an axe. But you did have to remortgage your house to get your hands on one, with a price tag of £300. Don't worry though, you got what you paid for. A handmade, limited edition pedal, painted by Psy himself, and controls named after your favourite songs, Syrup, Stink and Stress to name but 3. Q. The Questions and Answers music video. One of my favourite music videos from the band goes back to 2003, with their cheeky and snazzy suited questions and answers from the album The Vertigo of Bliss. The video shows Ben and James pushing Simon around the streets in a wheelchair after our precious frontman slipped on a bar of soap that morning. They head to the park and play a song for a group of pesky schoolchildren, but Psy's tumble was actually a last-minute rewrite by the directors. The night before, Biffy played a gig, and Simon fractured his ankle while jumping off a drum kit. Clumsy. R. Reading and Leeds Festival 2003. Sticking with 2003, and it was a huge moment in Biffy's history. With 2 albums released on a fairly small record label, Beggars Banquet, Biffy nabbed a main stage slot at the legendary Reading and Leeds Festival. Early posters for the festival show that Biffy weren't even meant to be there, anywhere, on any stage. So why are we now able to watch the boys belt out 2 songs thanks to YouTube? Well, my only guess is that they were a last minute change, after the Welsh band, and I'll say it quietly, Lost Prophets, had to pull out. Biffy replaced them, giving them a huge chance to impress their biggest audience yet. Watching it back, you can tell they weren't quite ready for such a leap, but I bet the experience was well worth it. S. Storm Thorgerson. Storm is a huge part of this band's history and makeup. As a graphic designer, he's created some of the most iconic artwork for the likes of Pink Floyd and Led Zeppelin. From 2007 to 2013, he worked with Biffy Clyro, going in depth into the lyrics to create some of the most striking images ever seen on an album sleeve. In an interview, Simon described him as the world's last sleeve designer, and Ben commented on how Storm worked closely with Simon, sometimes listening to demos before the record company even got a chance to. I've done a full video on Storm's work with Biffy, the link you can find in the description. T. Tribute. Did you know that Biffy have tribute bands? Well, you do now. There's the super Scottish Biffy Mig Clyro, and the slightly more close to home, Iffy Clyro from the northwest. I had the pleasure of seeing the Iffy boys at Pressfest, a tribute act festival a few years ago. I was pleasantly surprised by how good they were. What surprised me most is the range of songs they tackled in their set. Put it this way, their YouTube channel features live sessions of not only That Golden Rule and Mountains, but Bodies in Flight and 27, the first single. The channel biography even claimed they play B-sides. U. Unsigned. A few days prior to the release of their debut EP, The Kids Who Pop Today Will Rock Tomorrow, the band were spotted at the Unsigned Band stage at T in the Park in the year 2000. They were seen by a Beggars Banquet representative and signed to the independent label soon after. The band would go on to play the festival regularly, headlining the main stage at their 10th visit in 2014. V. Venart. Mike Venart has been Biffy's second live guitarist since the Only Revolutions era, providing backing vocals and extra guitar lines, along with his ridiculous array of pedals that can recreate any sound, whilst touring the world. Venart, originally from Manchester, founded the band Oceansize, who supported Biffy in the early 2000s. The band broke up in 2011, leaving Mike to make music solo and contribute to Biffy's Opposites album, released 2 years later. Oceansize released 4 albums, and I recommend their first one. W. Who's Got a Match? Live lyrics. Simon is pretty much on point when singing live, getting all the right words in all the right places to give the audience value for money and staying true to the original song. The fear when Biffy moved to the big arenas is that they would rely a bit too much on the audience sing-alongs, like Robbie Williams, and Psy would hold back. However, this is the only case for a few songs that cry out for audience-led singing, with the choruses of Machines, Many of Horror, and Who's Got a Match. But the latter song, when attempted live, has another little quirk to it. In the second verse, Cy should sing, "You're making me tense, what you're telling me." A series of facts that don't compute the classy way. I guess I'm wrong again anyway. But finding a live rendition of this song where this live is sang is nigh on impossible. Cy reverts to noises, gibberish, and even banging his head against the microphone. I still don't know why. XFactor. British singer Matt Cardle won the TV singing competition The XFactor in 2010, releasing his cover of Biffy's Many of Horror a few weeks before Christmas. The song was renamed When We Collide, achieved Christmas #1 in the UK charts, and stayed there until late January. It reached the 1 million sale mark 2 years later, and is currently the 4th best-selling single in Ireland. I remember watching The XFactor around this time of Cardle's success, and it was clear that very few people had heard the original. Many of Horror was released 12 months before Cardle's version, but it was the fans' reaction to the cover that propelled the original into the mainstream consciousness. Thanks to an internet campaign created by Biffy fans, the push to get Many of Horror to Christmas #1 instead of When We Collide moved it to the number 8 position in the singles charts. This position is only beaten by Mountains, which got to number 5. Why? Youth Centre. On the 31st of January 1995, Biffy played their first gig under the name Screwfish as a support act for a band called Pink Cross at the Key Youth Centre in East Kilbride, now known as Universal Connections. As Biffy Clyro, they played their first gig in a pub in Kilmarnock, which they visited in the Cultural Sons of Scotland documentary. ZZZC. Marmaduke Duke is not the only time Cy has created music under a different name. In 2014, he performed under the pseudonym ZZZC. His debut single, To the Bone, was used in the BBC's Radio 1 Rescores Drive project, created by DJ Zane Lowe. 3 years later, Neil released a 7-minute instrumental track called The Myth under the ZZC moniker. 2 other tracks also surfaced, Plead and Fever Dream, but they were released on the 2019 Biffy Clyro soundtrack album, Balance Not Symmetry. ZZC songs are thin on the ground so far, and I've only heard To the Bone. It's only okay.